So hi students. So I'm your host today because Gab is not around. So how was your course yesterday? Okay naman kayo? Okay pa kayo? Okay. So today, without any further ado, we'll introduce to you a very exciting lecturer today. She's also one of our colleagues in YC and she considers herself, we consider her as the digital maestra. So her anthem is actually having ambitious achievements. She aims to deliver focused insights, produce uncompromising results, and provide confident coaching to fellow entrepreneurs, startup founders, and MSMEs. And Flair has 14 years of experience in information technology field with 12 years in digital marketing. So sabi ko nga when I introduced here in our group chat, if you want to kick off your digital professional career, this is the best topic for you guys. She was mentored through the Digital Filipino Community, the Sherry Blair Foundation, and the U.S. Embassy. So let me introduce to you and let's have Claire Castro.
Hello, everyone. Great to have you here tonight. Okay, so if everyone is settled, we can start our discussion. And I know tonight we have a very interesting topic, and it connects well with all the lectures that you have been involved in for the Media Civics Lab. So, leaders, I'll call you leaders tonight, okay? Hopefully, this topic will excite you as much as I am passionate about sharing with you guys this discussion. So, I'll share my screen and let's start discussing about social media etiquette. Okay. All right. So, tonight, this is the topic that we will be discussing. Okay. What should you expect for tonight's training? At the end of the training, the SK leader will have an understanding of the basic social media etiquette online. The second expectation would be the SK leader will gain an understanding on why personal branding and an online professional profile is important for you and your profession. Third, the SK leader will be able to note good conduct and basic etiquette for the top social media platforms in the Philippines. Now, why does basic social media etiquette matter? Okay, basic social media etiquette, it varies from profession to profession and in various field of work. But basic social media etiquette can be understood and studied in order to use platforms in a meaningful way and not just to perform as a one-way communication. It's not similar to the platforms that we're used to, wherein there's only a one-to-many communication, right? But it also means that the network or your constituents should show your persona and it should show your professionalism online. So this skill about social media etiquette will be used to enhance your clout as you perform your role as a leader in your community. All right. So I know Miss Jara already introduced me, but I'll just do a quick introduction. I have 14 years of experience in information technology and 12 years in the field of digital marketing. And yes, I was mentored through the Digital Filipino Community, the Cherry Blair Foundation, and the US Embassy, wherein I met some of the leaders for this Media Civics Lab, Gabriel Billones and Miss Jara Brillantes. No? And if you're curious how to pronounce my name, it's actually Flair Castro, like fire flare. Yeah. I know it's a weird name, but that's just the name that my mom gave me. And there's a whole different story for that. But anyway, one of my advocacies include women entrepreneurship and digital tech for social good. So let's start. When you hear the word social media etiquette, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? When we hear of the word etiquette, it always connects us to the word or to the phrase good manners, right? Good manners, right conduct, and the things that are being taught to us in basic education. So you might have flashbacks of your elementary when you were taught, okay, this is how you do it, this is how you present yourself in public, this is how well you should behave in public. And we can connect that to the topic of social media etiquette. Okay, because similarly, what you do online should reflect your values offline. Okay, now break the fakes Media Civics Lab, I'll go through this again. It's a hyper localized, multi stakeholder approach to equipping Sangguniang Kabataan officials with crucial fact checking and media literacy and information skills. And resources, of course, so that you, the leaders here on the call, will be good ambassadors online and create a localized media education training in your respective communities. Now, this section of the training about social media etiquette, this will focus on the guidelines that you as an individual or as a leader should use to preserve your online reputation. So, if social etiquette dictates how we interact with other people in the real world, social media etiquette itself dictates what we do and how we should act in platforms intended for social networking. Right. So why should we study social media etiquette? What's the reason why we should include this when we are trying to educate ourselves, right? Social media usage is definitely high in the Philippines, and we all know this. Let's face it, we are even called the social media capital of the world, and we're not called that for nothing. Why? Because we hold the first place in number of hours spent daily on social media. So imagine all the time that you spent on your phone, right? And about 70% of the population already has access to the internet and the online social platforms. And especially in this pandemic, social media usage has increased more so. So, since our online persona represents a huge part of ourselves when we communicate, we can't separate it from who we are. So, you should be able to present yourself online and manage your online reputation. As leaders, I know you have followers, I know you have constituents. Whenever you post something, they're waiting for you. They're waiting for what you will say and what you will actually do offline. And we can even see that right now, even with the issues that have been plaguing our country. I know we don't need to go political, of course, but as you can see, communication is quite valuable because it would show what you stand for as a leader. So we should be aware of how we communicate online because it also reflects your profession and your professionalism. All right, now let's go through our objectives for this training. So, first, we're going to review the state of social media in the Philippines and why social media is important. Next, we'll learn the basic do's and the don'ts of social media. Next, we will understand what personal branding is and why personal branding is important for SK leaders. And then, lastly, we will understand nuanced etiquette for popular platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So let's dive into topics, and this is what we will be discuss. We will be discussing on the call tonight. First, we're going to discuss the state of social media and internet in the Philippines. Second, the do's and don'ts of social media. Third, personal branding for SK leaders. And fourth will be the actual social media etiquette for Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. All right, so let's start. What is the state of social in the Philippines? I'm sure some of the speakers have already presented you with the data, but back in January 2020, based on a report from We Are Social in Singapore and from Hootsuite, they told us that out of 109 million Filipinos, 67% of us already have access to the internet. And along with the 67% access in the internet, we also have the same number of active social media users. So what we can say is that the magic number would always be up to 70%, right? We can always round it off, 67, for both the internet and the social media usage. Now, internet users in the Philippines, some quick numbers. We run at an average of 10 hours per day online. So imagine that that's a huge amount of time that we spend online. In fact, if you would look at the global average, right? You see these charts here. Worldwide, they only spend about 6 hours, but in the Philippines, where we're Filipinos, we spend 10 hours. So Philippines is still considered as the world's most social people, with the average internet user aged 16 to 64 and spending almost 4 hours a day on social platforms. So, again, going through the numbers, 67% of us are active social media users in the Philippines. And these are numbers that we have to take note of because as leaders, we should know where our audience is, right? Are they online? Are they offline? Are they using the internet? Are they using social media? So a huge amount of people are already on social media. Therefore, you as a leader should learn how to engage with them on these platforms. Now, they also say there's 12 new social media users every second. Now, it's an interesting to note that, there will be a baby boom after the pandemic. That's what they said. But they should also know, or we should also know, that there's going to be a social media boom this year because most people are online, right? We have nothing else to do but try to explore new platforms, and therefore there are 12 new social media users every single second. Imagine that. And if you would want to ask, okay, so everyone is online, everyone is on social media, what platform do they use? Well, the world uses Facebook. It's the top social media platform, it's a giant social media platform that almost everyone would use. Right. So the number here, we have number 9. I know you have questions, so I will take the time after this training or after my session in order to answer your questions. So just keep them coming. You can type it on chat, but I will make sure to answer them after this presentation. All right. So, number 9, what does this mean? It means that a typical social media user is a member of 9 different platforms. So, imagine your friend if they say, okay, can I add you on Facebook? And then they would say, oh, don't worry, I'm not on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account. But they might be on other social media accounts. They might be on, let's say, Instagram, or they might be on Twitter or on LinkedIn, right? So look at your own personal profiles on social media and try to count how many social media profiles do you really have. So take note that when we say social media platforms, it also includes social apps or social chat apps like Viber or Telegram or WhatsApp, WeChat. These are all considered social platforms also. So try to count. Does it really reach 9, right? So on average, you have 9. So ask your friend. If he doesn't have Facebook, for sure, he has another channel. Okay, so let's take a look at the next number, right? They say that almost everyone has a mobile phone in the Philippines. So, can you still remember a relative? Like, if you ask them, okay, can you give me your cell number so that I can contact you and try to order some of your what they're selling during the pandemic, for example? And then they would say, oh, I don't have a mobile phone, I don't have a number. So even if they say that, we have to look at the numbers because it says right here that everyone has a mobile phone. In fact, most of us has a dual SIM phone, right? Or you might have two devices. You might have two phones. Um, one number for each network, right? You have the red network, the green network, or the blue network, right? So right now during the pandemic, they also say that people don't have just dual SIM, but they also have two internet connections because we need backup right now, right? So we need to work online, we need to study online. So most of us have an internet backup also. Right. So, what is the main reason why Filipinos are on social media? So, if you would ask yourself, well, what is your motivator? Why do you keep browsing your phone? Why do you keep going to Facebook? So, the top answer from the research, it says that the main reason why we are on social media is to stay in touch with friends and family, and this has been the primary motivator for social media use. Now, what does this tell us? What do these all these numbers tell us? It tells us that social media does play a huge role. Okay, so now let's go to the 10 do's and don'ts of social media. And I want you to take note of this slide because this is the main reason why we are discussing this, right? Social media etiquette. Now, 10 do's and don'ts of social media. The first, do understand the target audience for your content before you post. Ask yourself who is mainly following you on your social media. Is it your fellow leaders? Is it your constituents, your neighbor, your friends or family? And try to see if sila ba yung intended audience mo. Are they the one who you want to talk to on these platforms? Second, do think if your readers will care about the content you post. Maybe you are trying to sell them chorizo, for example, but then they don't care about that because they want your opinion regarding an issue. or a political issue, or they want your opinion on what your action plan would be regarding, let's say, there's flooding in your community and they want to hear what your action plan is, right? So think if your readers on social media will care about the content you post. Third, don't post if it will offend someone. And this is quite basic on all platforms. Everything that you post online will be archived and for public consumption. So even if you tweet something and then decide to delete it later on because you have a typo, if it offended someone, take note that someone might have taken a screenshot of it. Diba? We are a screenshot generation. People might be there looking at your updates, and even if they don't comment or like your post, you might have offended them unknowingly, right? So beware of the screenshots. Try to post, but try not to offend someone. Fourth, do check if it is the right platform to communicate the content. So maybe you are updating, but then your post is quite long. No, it's a long form post. Perhaps the best platform to do that would be your blog, right? Or your website. Maybe not on Twitter because Twitter only caters to so much number of characters, right? So try to check if it is the right platform to communicate your content. Fifth is, of course, don't spam. There's a limit before you're considered excessive. There's a limit before you're considered already spamming. And do acknowledge that there are algorithms on these platforms. On Facebook, for example, it has a platform that will flag you for posting too much, right? So don't spam. Six is, do consider the right format for your platform. Maybe you are posting a photo when in fact the right the right format for it would be a video. Maybe you're trying to explain a process, no, or a situation to your constituents, but then you're just posting it as a status update. Perhaps it is better if you take your phone out, take a video, and then explain it to them, right? So think and consider if it is the right format for this certain platform. Seventh, do spell check and do grammar check, right? Okay, we don't want to see typos on social media, especially that you're leaders, right? People are looking at your updates. So try to minimize your errors in grammar and spelling. Do a spell check and do a grammar check. Number eight, do consider your reputation before you post, right? Maybe you're posting something, quite woke, but then you didn't know that it's already affecting how people perceive you or what your reputation is like. Ninth is, don't post if you are just venting and not offering value. Now, of course, I myself am aware that I vent on social media, but I try that my posts are also offering value, right? So don't just vent. Try to see if your post is actually offering value to your readers. And tenth and the most important one is to think before you post. Now, I know you've heard this several times, perhaps during the Media Civics Lab training, right? To always think before you post because you wouldn't know who you would offend. You wouldn't know how it's giving an impact on your reputation. So try to think before you post. All right. So those are the 10 do's and don'ts of social media. Now, since we're talking about social media etiquette and we can consider this also as good manners, right? Think of the time when you are trying to dine in a fancy restaurant and then they're offering you plates and then several spoons and fork, and you don't even know how to do that, right? Maybe they're thinking, oh, you are so high society, you have to know how to use all these kinds of spoon and fork. But it doesn't really matter if you don't know how to do that. What matters is your sensitivity or your awareness towards the feelings of others. I mean, no one would be offended if you use the wrong fork, right? So manners are a sensitive awareness of the feelings of others. If you have that awareness, if you have good manners, doesn't matter if you use the wrong fork, doesn't matter if you use the right or wrong social media platform, as long as you be mindful of your manners. So try to think of it like this. If this action or this statement is something that I wouldn't say offline, then don't post it online. Okay? Now, what are the things that you should consider before you engage or before you post? Think of these three things: others, your reputation, and value. So others is consider other people. Consider how they're going to think, how they're going to react to what you post. Consider their feelings. Be mindful of others, right? Because we are not using a platform that is just one to many, and then there's no option for them to engage. Anytime they can like your post, anytime they can comment, they can even reshare it or screenshot it, right? So consider others when you post. Next to consider is your reputation. Now, why should you consider your reputation? Again, as I said, you are leaders. People are looking up to you. So, therefore, your reputation will matter. Whatever you post will reflect back on you, will reflect back on your manners, will reflect back on your values. And I know it is something perhaps that your parents have been trying to instill in you ever since you were young people, or you were kids, right? So be mindful of your manners because it will affect your reputation. The third item to consider before engaging is value, right? What is value? Value is, are they getting something out of this post, right? Are you giving them something that they can think about? Are you giving them something that they can ruminate on, or probably something that they can discuss with you offline, right? Try to think of the value. Consider this before you post, right? They always say that you have to give and give and give before you get something in return. And this is similar to what you're doing or posting online. It has to be giving something of value so that you can get something. And what do we want to get from social media, right? We want to get that authority. You want to get their opinion, right? And you want to engage with them. You want to make sure that your voice is heard, especially if you are representing the voice of the youth. So you have to continually give something of value in order to get value from other people. Okay, so I hope that's clear. The three things that you should do or consider before engaging. Now, this is the next portion of our discussion for social media etiquette. I will cover personal branding. So, why is this included as part of social media etiquette, right? So, I added here personal branding. We're covering this as part of the social media etiquette course or training. Since we have an online persona, it also represents proper manners online. So you don't want to go out in public wearing nothing, right? I even considered adding here, do you want to consider going out in public wearing just a mask and representing an anon, or like, do you want to be anonymous online? Probably you don't want to do that because you're leaders, right? You want to be known for something, to stand for something, and to represent those who are underrepresented, right? So you want to be known. That's why personal branding is important. It has to come in as part of your online persona and as part of your social media etiquette. So we will cover the basics of personal branding to include the facet in social media etiquette. So how you present yourself online is vital in personal branding, and it is reflected in how you post your content, the type of content you're posting, and how people perceive you based on what they see on your profile. So one challenge that I usually tell my students is to think of this, right? If you Google your name right now, ano yung makikita mo? What do you see when you Google your name? Perhaps there will be articles about you, or perhaps the first result on Google would be your Facebook profile. Imagine that, right? And once they click on your Facebook profile, what's the first thing that they will see? Okay? They're gonna see your profile picture. They're gonna see your public post. And ano yung ma-come up nila na conclusion once they see your profile? Would they consider you as professional when they see your profile online? So think about this. Remember that there's only so much attention span that we have online. Like they said, we have the attention span of a goldfish, and a goldfish only has, let's say, 12 seconds of attention span, right? What is the first impression that you will create looking at your personal branding? So these are the things that you should consider, and here are some tips for your personal branding. Think about your persona. Okay, who are you? What is your position? What are you all about? What is your character, your trait, your attitude, and your values? There was one speaker, for example, in our events. Every time she shows up in her talks, she always wears these glasses that says love. No, because it's part of her persona. It's showing her character that she is all about love, you know. So naging part siya ng persona niya. Lagi siyang nag-use ng glasses na my love. And then in my case, for me, whenever I post, I always add either a flag or a heart. And for me, it's part of my persona because I show my opinion regarding the country or the situation, political situation. I might put a flag, or if it's a personal update, I put a heart. Yan. So parang part na siya ng persona ko na ginagawa ko yan. Okay, so think about yourself. What persona are you trying to show? How consistent are you with your persona? Okay, because that's part of your personal branding. Now, the next part or the next tip is consider your audience. Who is your current audience and what kind of audience do you want to attract? So, the tip here is to include them in your journey. Don't just talk about yourself, talk about the concerns of your audience too. Maybe your constituents are following you, or maybe there are fellow youth leaders that are following you. What is something that you can talk about that includes them? Include them in your journey. Maybe there is an issue that you want to talk about. Maybe it's a discussion that they're also concerned about, right? So consider your audience and include them in your discussions. Okay. And consistency is important in personal branding. So, what is consistency? It is how often you post, what kind of tone you use in your post. So, one tip here is to consider a consistent schedule or type of post that you share. So, for example, let's say every Thursday you post a question of the week on your group. Okay, so assuming that you have an SK Leader group on Facebook, and then every Thursday, 7 p.m., nagpo-post kayo ng question, the question of the week, right? So if you do this every week meron kayong question of the week, Thursday, 7 p.m., it means to say that that consistent schedule is something that your followers will look forward to, right? So keeping a consistent schedule will tell them, oh, anong oras na? 7 p.m. na, baka mag-post na sila ngayon kasi Thursday din, di ba? Excited ako sa question of the week ni leader namin. Ano kaya yung mga discussions namin this week? Yan. So, consistency can be part of your personal branding. So, always show up. You have to consistently show up for your constituents. Ayan. And the next part of personal branding is, of course, networking, right? How are you engaging with them? Pag nagpo-post ka, are you even replying? Are you liking back on their post? Ina-acknowledge mo ba sila? Right? So the tip here, again, as I mentioned, is to give in order to get, right? How would you even consistently engage in a post sa friend mo pag hindi naman sila nagre-reply? Right? Pag nag-post sila ng question tapos nag-reply ka, tapos dinedma ka lang, 'di ba? They're not even liking it, hindi sila nagre-reply, parang totally parang hindi ka nag-comment sa kanila. So what's your initial reaction? 'Di ba yung reaction mo sasabihin, "Oh, pag nag-post to siya, ayoko nang mag-engage kaya hindi na ako magko-comment, hindi naman siya nagre-reply eh." 'Di ba? So that's gonna be their initial reaction. So part of your personal branding is to consistently network with them. Okay, so take note, especially if you are a network of SK leaders, pag nag-post si leader 1, di ba, maybe you can also add in your comments. Maybe you can reshare their post kasi connected siya sa issues that you are tackling. Di ba? So, that's part of your networking. You also have to give in order to get. Hindi yung laging nag-expect ka lang, sige, later magko-comment na yan sila, magla-like yan, walang problema. But you also have to network with them and to perhaps thank them na nag-engage sila sa inyo. Okay? Part of networking. Okay. So, I think I've already mentioned the do's and don'ts of social media. I'll skip that one. What we're going to discuss is the last 3 slides will be about the top platforms. So, what are the top platforms in the Philippines when you want to show your online persona? It's Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. That's why I chose this platform to list down kung ano yung do's and don'ts natin. Okay? So, let's take a look at Facebook because this is the top channel in the Philippines. Now, what are the do's and don'ts on Facebook itself? All right. So this is the list. First is respond to comments or reactions on your post. So I just discussed this, diba? Na when someone comments on your post or when someone reacts, you have to also acknowledge them. Dapat nagre-respond ka and dapat ina-acknowledge mo sila para on their next post, gaganado din sila na magko-comment again, right? So that's the first one. The second is to engage in discussions from post in your stream. So don't be a narcissist. Yung parang post mo lang tinitingnan mo. Tingnan mo rin yung post ng iba, di ba? So look at your Facebook feed. Try to see if may mga discussions doon or post ng friend mo or fellow leader that you want to engage in or add your voice in. Okay? So it's part of good social media etiquette that you use the platforms the right way, and the right way to use Facebook is to really add in to conversations. All right. The third one is, instead of, I highlighted this as bold, yung mga naka-bold dito are those are those tips or the do's and don'ts that you have to think about, right? And I know this is quite an issue with us, yung mga Gen Zs, yung mga millennials, na pag merong nag-post na it doesn't align, yung opinions nila hindi nag-a-align sa values mo, what's our initial reaction? Diba sasabihin natin, i-block natin sa, ano to, unfollow na to, block ko na to, ganyan. So, maybe an option, instead of unfriending them or i-block mo sila, maybe you can try just unfollowing first, right? Or snooze mo sila for 30 days. I know there's a feature there on Facebook. You can click on their profile and then you can choose snooze for 30 days, right? So, wag mo na lang silang i-unfriend. What happens ba kung i-unfriend mo sila? Pag you decide later on na nag-align na pala yung values nyo, isn't it awkward if you try to friend them again? Di ba? So maybe you can just keep them on your list, but kung ayaw mo na talaga or toxic na yung mga post nila, you can just try unfollowing them or snoozing them. Wag yung nag-unfriend ka immediately or nagbo-block because it becomes really obvious and you might need them later on in your networking. Yan. Fourth is introduce yourself before adding people. So, when you add people on Facebook, tapos nagme-message ka sa kanila, what happens? Diba usually it goes to message request, right? Hindi siya nakikita ng person. But still, as part of good manners, you should introduce yourself. Why did you add this person in the first place? Dahil ba may mga mutual friends kayo, or are you just interested in their post? But try to send them a message and tell them what's the reason ba that you added them, right? So maybe you want to connect with them because you're part of the same community or you're part of the same network. Yeah, so give them a quick introduction why you're adding them. Fifth is add only those with mutuals. Isn't it awkward pag may nag-add sa'yo sa Facebook tapos wala kayong mutual friends? Diba usually ito yung mga spammers or mga bots, diba? So try to see if meron kayong mutual because it could be part of your introduction about yourself. You can tell them, oh, I saw that we're mutual friends with blank. Maybe my post would also be interesting for you. That's why I'm adding you on Facebook. Yung parang ganun. Of course, I know not a lot of us would introduce ourselves that way, di ba? Usually, pag nag-message tayo ng mga people on Facebook, it's with a reason. Kasi may gusto kang gawin or something, no? Or may gusto kang i-communicate sa kanila. But that can be an option. Try to add only those with mutuals. 6 is, it is good manners to hide friends list from profile. May mga leaders ba dito na hindi naka-hide yung friends nila? What's the reason? Bakit i-hide natin? The reason why we should hide them is because baka yung mga spammer or bot would also add your friends and then pretend to be someone else from your network. You have to be careful about this because this is usually the tactic of yung social engineering, diba? Are you familiar with that? That's part of parang cybercrime when you do social engineering. So let's say they add all the friends from your list and then they pretend to be someone else. So that's a red flag, no? So try to hide the friends list from your profile. Ayan. 7. Okay. Verify articles or information before resharing your post. Sometimes what happens is that we reshare something or an article or a news just because it's trending, right? But it is in our own responsibility to also verify the information. And I know you've heard of these instructions before from the other lecturers na you should be careful about fake news. No, verify your articles or the information first before resharing. 8. Ask permission before taking a photo or tagging someone. So maybe gusto mo mag-selfie, gusto mo ipakita yung mga leaders na kasama nyo, ask them muna first. Like, okay, can we take a selfie? Or gusto nyo bang itag ko kayo dito sa picture? Baka kasi yung iba nagtatag lang but yung ending is just, it's just spam pala, no? So ask permissions, and if you do tag someone, oh, yung number 9, don't tag someone if hindi relevant yung post for them. I know there are people, for example, like last week, my person na they're always tagging me. Yung reason pala na nagpa-tag sila is nagpapalike yung mga pamangkin nila, yung mga friends nila na they're running for some contest, di ba? So, if the person is not relevant for that post, maybe don't tag them, right? Kasi it's not relevant talaga. Like, parang nagsa-spam ka lang. So think about that. 10. Don't share personally identifiable information of other people and yourself. So we're familiar with PII and the data privacy law in the Philippines, right? So if the information is personally identifiable, yung address nila, yung birthday, yung name ng anak, 'di ba? Yung email, yung number, yung mga ganun. If it's personally identifiable, don't share them unless it's really important, like you're raising funds, 'di ba? But if identifiable siya and it would compromise someone's data privacy, don't share it. All right. So if you have questions regarding the do's and don'ts on Facebook, just chat them up. If there's none, I'll proceed to the next platform. So the next platform is Twitter. Now, Twitter is one of my favorites in terms of gathering news or sharing articles that are trending or sharing topics that are trending. So, for example, ngayon, there was a topic about a CEO that trended because of a certain issue due to her opinions about the government, right? So, Twitter is the perfect platform for a Twitter storm. And why? Because they say that a lot of wokes are on Twitter, right? You can just share your information. It's yung tweet mo, hindi siya na-edit. And sometimes people just take screenshots and delete their post pag ganun. So pag nag-trending ka on Twitter, it's gonna be some sort of an issue because people will add into the conversation, right? And it becomes a highlight on the platform if a topic is trending. So these are some of the do's and don'ts on Twitter. So first is, do optimize your profile. Don't be an anon. Baka yung iba gumagawa lang ng Twitter because it's their alt profile. I mean, go, it's your choice if you want to be anon. But if you are trying to professionalize your persona online, then optimize your profile. Add in a cover photo, add in a profile photo, fill in the information about you, add in your website URL. So don't be anonymous, right? Optimize your profile. Second, make use of the pinned tweet. Why is that important? Because it could highlight what you are all about. Maybe you have an advocacy, maybe you have fundraising, you can use the pinned tweet for that. Third, be consistent with posting content. So again, with the consistency, we have to be constantly posting. I know there are people who just create Twitter, but then after a few months, wala na sila dun. And I see a lot of dead profiles on Twitter, and even Twitter itself would suggest that I follow them, but yung nakikita ko usually yung last update nila, let's say 2014 pa, right? So they're not being consistent. You have to be consistent in your posting of content on Twitter. Fourth, this is important, is to add relevant hashtag. So why are hashtags important on Twitter? Because it's a way for you to expand your reach, and it's a way for you to add in a conversation. So let's say people are talking about a certain issue like Ulysses PH, diba? Ngayon dahil sa storm. So people are tweeting about hashtag relief PH, hashtag Ulysses PH. So use hashtags that are relevant. So again, with the word relevant, because some people are just using trending hashtags to spam other people. Don't do that. You have to use the hashtags the right way that it should be used. All right. Fifth is don't spam people. This is basic. Some people will just at a lot of people. So nag-at links sila, at. This is considered as spamming. So don't do that. Six is, of course, don't post negative tweets unless you really want to reach the customer service of a company, right? Seven is don't trend jack without research. What is trend jack? Trend jack is when you use a certain hashtag in order to just say something, no? Yung, let's say, may nag-trending na tweet of a certain influencer. So, yung iba nagsa-spam lang, like, okay, buy my products, buy from my online store. Yung mga ganun, it's already considered as spamming. So, you have to research a certain trend or a certain trending hashtag and add into the conversation. Don't just use it na hindi mo alam kung ano yung topic about, right? That's what it means. So, eight is don't just focus on selling all the time. This is relevant for those who are, they have their own business or they are fundraising. Don't just focus on selling. There has to be that component of conversation on Twitter. And nine is don't use bots. There are a lot of people who would consider using bots para automatic yung posting. Don't do that because you would be considered a spam and Twitter will ban you, right? So don't use bots. And 10 is similar to Facebook, do respond and engage with people, especially if it's relevant to the conversation that you're trying to start, right? So those are the do's and don'ts on Twitter. All right, so let's proceed with the last platform. Now, LinkedIn is important for professionals, especially for young professionals such as yourself, because it shows what you are all about or what your work is all about, right? Some people, when they get new positions or new jobs, the first thing that they do is they update LinkedIn. Or if they are trying to look for a new job, alam mo talaga magre-resign yung isang tao pag nag-update na siya ng LinkedIn. That's what they said, di ba? So once you update your LinkedIn, so parang nata-target ka like, this person is looking for a job kasi nag-update na siya ng LinkedIn. So instead of being flagged like that, try to continually update your LinkedIn profile. No, that's part of the etiquette in using the platform. So these are the 10 do's and don'ts on LinkedIn itself. So first is do personalize your connection request. Yung iba nagsasend lang ng connection request without understanding who this person is or are they relevant to their profession or to their career. So personalize your connection request. And once you do that, also send a welcome message. A welcome message, of course, it's a bit of introduction about who you are, what you do, ano yung mga relevant links that are all about you. Third is respond promptly. So if someone is sending you a message, possibly there's a reason why they're trying to contact you. Maybe they're trying to hire you, right? Or maybe they're asking to interview you about your industry. So respond promptly. Fourth is have a professional headshot. Yan. Don't use your selfies on LinkedIn. Don't use your overly filtered profile photos on LinkedIn. Have a professional headshot on LinkedIn. So fifth is along with the other platforms, post content regularly. You have to have a schedule in your posting so that people will look forward to your content. Ayan. Six is don't send irrelevant messages. People don't want that, right? So it's considered as spamming again. Seven is keep your profile updated. Don't just update when you're looking for a new job. Keep it as fresh as you can. If there are new skills that you learned or new certifications, update your profile. Ayan. Eight is don't ask connections or people you don't know to endorse you. Endorsement is a special feature on LinkedIn wherein people are vouching for your skill. So if hindi mo naman katrabaho yung person before, don't ask for recommendations. And of course, similarly, number nine, don't ask strangers for recommendations then or endorsements because who are they to talk about your skill if they don't know you? Of course. And then 10 is don't criticize others or comment negatively. So there's really parang a hidden rule on social media that you should not post anything that is nega. Parang just good vibes, yung ganun. Because depende sa'yo if that's part of your personal branding that you're very opinionated. But it's always recommended that you don't criticize others or comment negatively. All right. So now, are you ready to start? Are you really ready to show your brand new social media profiles along with your social media etiquette, right? Because social media etiquette means not just being present on these channels, but also minding your manners and also using the platform to your purpose. And as leaders, I know you have your own purpose in being here, in serving the community. So use the platform wisely, right? Pay attention to your personal branding and to your thought leadership on these social media platforms. And as always, what they've always been repeating this: think before you post. So that is my presentation, and hopefully, if you have any questions later on, feel free to contact me on these channels. Okay. Ayan. Sige. So I will.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
So we just had Miss Flair, and you guys have questions? And you have questions. So anyway, I received two questions from one of our students, and I'd like to ask you, Miss Blair, si
Yep.
ano tatawagin mo kitang ate or what? Hindi na. Blair. Okay, I'll just call you Blair. So I call
Yes,
Blair.
ate.
Dai.
Inday.
Okay.
Samanday.
So ito, kasi you mentioned about reputation consciousness. Don't you think that reputation consciousness is actually going to limit our freedom of speech?
That's a very hard question, madam. Why do you ask me such joke? Well,
Naging question po siya, ano naman si
Ayan. So, yeah, that is a very good point to discuss because I just posted it also in our founders community. So we have this group on Facebook wherein we discuss case studies about fellow founders. And one of the issues that we pointed out just today is, should you even mix business and politics? 'Di ba? Because if you consistently talk about those topics and then people can trace it back to your account or to your professional profile, it does affect your reputation. No, so when you post on social media, I personally have one rule, and it's not to talk, and I shouldn't talk about politics, and I shouldn't talk about religion. Yung dalawa. But if I am concerned about a certain issue of our country, for example, of course it is my civic duty to also voice out my opinions. So my point is, just be conscious about how people are perceiving you based on what you post. Yun lang talaga. Like, how brave can you get in your posting on social media? And from that scale, like, okay, I want to be 10 over 10 brave. 'Di ba? So I will post about politics. I will post about religion. I don't care what people think. 'Di ba? So it's really based on how brave you want to be and how you want people to perceive you. But if you're really quite conscious, for example, I give you, let's say yung mga hindi millennials, hindi Gen Z, 'di ba? Yung mga boomers or yung mga older natin, 'di ba? They're quite conscious about how they're perceived. So if you would look at their profile, hindi sila nagpo-post ng anything political. They just talk about business, they just talk about their ventures, yun lang talaga. But for us, for the new generation, it's always considered na part ng persona natin that we have advocacies. So I think what I'm trying to say is that millennials and Gen Zs are becoming braver, right? So we're quite brave to the point that we don't care how it impacts our reputation. So it might be something that either from your own standpoint you want to tone down or tone up depending on your own personal values.
All right. So let's have a limit on what we post, political or business, because you need to
Yes,
make
yeah.
sure that you're, as mentioned several times by Ms. Flair, personal branding. Anyway, we
Yeah.
have a question from Paulo or Donio, and Paulo, you can unmute yourself so that you can ask it
Yes.
personally.
Hi, Paulo.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you once again,
Afternoon.
Miss Flair, for that wonderful presentation. First, I'm praying that everyone's safe after the typhoon of experience. Sige, my question is parang medyo na sagot mo na po siya, Miss Flair. Pero
Sige,
I
sige.
am just curious kasi dun sa etiquette, social media etiquette number 3. Ang sabi nga
Right.
dun is
Mm-mm.
assure na wala ka ma-offend. But I
Mm-mm.
want to talk more about or parang makarinig pa about the thin line nga nun sa freedom of expression. Kasi aminin natin at aminin, sa bawat galaw at post natin, may ma-offend at may ma-offend because we have our own point of view, we have our own stand,
Totoo.
and
Totoo.
personal experience bilang and another fact pa na isa kang government employee. Ang lagi kasing dahilan is non-partisan ka dapat.
Right.
And also I'm a Christian, and ang nagiging lagi nga ring ano is we must follow what the government is telling. But there are challenges na nangyayari na imbes na mag-voice out ka, you choose to na mag-ano ka na lang, mag-flick ka na lang, itago mo na lang sa sarili mo yung opinion mo because pag nag-post ka nga ng ganito, ano-ano yung mga sasabihin sa iyo. So, kanina nga you said na it's about kung gaano kakatapang sa mga ano. But for me that who really wants to speak my opinion, paano ba siya mababalanse that I am assuring that no one is being offended by my point of view?
Right. Thank you for your question, Paulo. Actually, tama yung sinabi mo, Jara, no? Like yung questions natin, it's very, it's quite challenging, I would say. But yes, that's true. There is a thin line between being, like doing our civic duty of being, opinionated citizens of our country versus actually doing our job, right? Like when we do our work, there is a limit between what opinions we are allowed to say on social media. So I think pinaka first na i-consider natin, it's really of course, let's look at the laws and the rules, diba? Like data privacy. Are you invading the data privacy of a certain person by mentioning them on your post? Are you violating a certain rule, let's say in your company? Because all of these things, I mean, personally, it has happened to me. One of the reasons I was fired from my second job as a corporate employee was because I was too opinionated on social media. I blogged about their policy. I blogged about a certain tool that my company was using, and then eventually, what happened was, they fired me because they saw that I have been posting about it. So first and foremost, look at the rules, maybe of your company or of your department or where you are involved, because if you are violating those rules, then of course those are grounds for you to be kicked out of your job. So look at the rules and then look at data privacy. So at the baseline, if you know what rules you are following, then you can break some of them. 'Di ba? Yun nga sabi nila, 'di ba? You have to know the rules in order to have the capacity to break them. So think of your limits muna, think of your boundaries, and then from there you can try to tweak and go around your way with the laws. But yun yung pinaka first dapat mong i-consider. You have to know what rules you're breaking in the opinions that you're trying to state. And I think it's a beautiful thing, Paulo, that we are living in a democratic country, that we have this opportunity to really voice out. Because imagine if we are in a different country, diba? What would they do to people like us who are opinionated? They would probably hunt us down, look for us in our own addresses and houses, and then lock us up. But now we have that kind of freedom. We are voicing out on Twitter, on Facebook, and I think this is quite a wonderful opportunity for us as Filipinos. Yun. So I hope I answered your question, Paolo.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I know talaga
yeah.
it's quite frustrating. Oo.
Actually, Paulo did not mention he works with government, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
With,
Right.
are we
yes.
allowed DepEd?
We are an attached agency of DepEd. We're focused with the National Council for Children's Television. So our primary
Right.
mandate is assuring child-friendly TV shows and media literacy for our stakeholders. Kasi naalala ko lang bigla on our parang isang program review, a participant raised a question about what is our stand regarding the ABS-CBN shutdown. Siyempre,
Right.
all of us have our different opinions, but all we can say is that we are a non-partisan and um, siguro hanggang doon na lang. Yun lang.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, there are limits to us. Like, if you know that you're breaking rules for your department or for your work, then that's definitely going to be your upper limit in how you're voicing out your opinions. But no one is stopping you from creating out accounts, right? Or, pseudo profiles, I would say, that can, be a platform for you to voice out your opinion without attaching it to a real person offline, because we just really want to voice out kung ano yung gusto natin or hindi natin gusto. But iyon nga, there are limits to what we're gonna say. I'll give you an example, Paolo, ha. There was this advocacy that we were creating for Project Base. So it's an app that crowdsources the speed of internet connection across the Philippines. So we are collecting that data. And one time uh, we had a campaign wherein we interview people and then we ask them what their concerns are regarding the speed of their internet. So yung nangyari is, yung isa pa lang na interview namin, he was an employee of DICT. So we know that DICT is offering free Wi-Fi, di ba? So, yung na-interview namin siya, tapos na-post namin on social media yung opinion niya, which is negative about the speed of the internet in the Philippines. Yung nangyari is pina-take down siya ng isang director. Imagine that a director from Region 7 here in Cebu was telling me, why did you post him? He was an employee of the ICT. You're crossing the line. Yung parang ganun. So what we did was really, we talked it out with the director, and then we told him na, okay, he was just voicing out his opinion as a citizen, or like as a you you know, as a Filipino, like why would you do this to him or something like that. But then he said yung argument niya is, well, he is still attached to our department, so if he wants to keep his job, he should not be voicing out opinions like this. So yun yung limit talaga. We have to be also careful kung saan tayo attached.
Yeah, that's correct. Kasi though we have this certain freedom of speech, there are certain rules that, when we sign our contracts with private or governmental agencies, we
Right.
get to be subjected to that. So we need to balance as which balance that, or else yes, you're gonna lose your job.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm,
and then yeah, which goes to my next question that was sent to me anonymously. Okay.
anon talaga.
Yeah, anon, okay? So someone asked, you mentioned about yung sharing of thoughts, pero may value, right? Should we
Right.
more
True.
concerned? Yeah, should we be concerned with sharing our thoughts, our critics, of course with value, especially with Miss Flair, who has been around, has been mentored by different agencies already, by private organizations. In one way or another, your thoughts have value. Okay. So should you
Mhm.
be concerned? I think this question really works for you, huh? Should we be concerned more with our thoughts, now sharing thoughts with value, than those who actually follow us? And look at that. Maybe the RD of a certain regional
Yeah.
director of a certain
Yeah.
government agency follows you. So how do
Yeah.
you be more concerned? Your
Yeah.
thoughts, which maybe the public needs to hear, or can be concerned about, I can't post this because this agency might see this post.
Yan. So that's one thing, because I realized like whenever I post on social media, it's either the people who would comment on your posts are those that agree with you, or there are people who just silently follow you and then are forming opinions in their head about you, diba? And to whichever agency you are attached with, based on what you post. So, like I said, it's always a thin line between balancing your personal branding, your persona, and trying to see kung meron bang value yung mga pinopost mo. Hindi naman siguro nagpo-post lang tayo ng rant na without value, 'di ba? I mean, especially being leaders in your organizations or in your societies, being SK leaders. I would assume that whenever you post, there has to be that attached value. But again, yun nga, you have to be really considerate about those who are following you. Like even those who na hindi nagla-like or hindi nagko-comment. Kasi one of these days, they might message you and then tell you, oh, Miss Flair, I follow you. I read your posts, I read your messages, and I agree with you. Yung mga ganun, it's validating for us. But sometimes there are also people who don't agree with what you say. So parang just balance it out, because alam mo talaga na it wouldn't align kung ano yung values nila. And one thing that I should add, by the way, is that try not to form a bubble of your own community. When I say bubble is like, let's say, lahat na lang ng fina-follow mo on social media are people that agree with your opinion. Because what happens is it creates that echo chamber. Yung parang, okay, I'll just follow this person kasi pareho kami ng opinion. It doesn't work that way. You also have to follow people na hindi nag-agree with those opinion mo, because you would be able to form your judgment whether your opinion in the first place has value or it matters, or would it even change your opinion, 'di ba? Yun yung sinasabi nila na echo chamber. Pag nag-follow ka lang ng mga people who have the same opinion as you, what would happen is parang validation na lang yung nangyayari mo. You won't be able to form unbiased opinion if you don't also listen kung ano yung sinasabi ng opposing side, let's say. Ayan.
So, meron pa tayong isang question, si Rose Ann Baron, but she wants me to read this in behalf of her. So her question is that, what are the level of chances that your information on LinkedIn account be scammed or gathered or imitated for bad intentions?
Yes. Well, eto na lang. That's what we should know about public information. Whatever you post on social media, whatever you announce on Twitter or whichever platform like LinkedIn, there's a huge possibility that you will definitely be scammed. Or remember that time on Facebook na a lot of people were getting duplicate accounts na similar sa name nila. I mean, that happened. Definitely, it's going to happen in other platforms also, whether you are in Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever. As long as you have public information, as long as you're putting out your photos out there, there is a huge chance that that information can be used for the bad. Diba? That is why sabi nga nila, if you are on social media just for work, then your post should just be about work. Diba? And if you're on social media to just, like, I don't know, form opinions or like, say your opinions about certain matters or issues, then maybe try to create a persona na ganyan ka lang talaga. 'Di ba? Pag nag-mix ka kasi, it would become confusing for your followers. Kung ano ba talaga tong, what do you stand for ba talaga? Bakit iba-iba yung opinion mo or something like that. But yes, I mean, I hope I answered your question. Yes, your information can definitely be used for negative purposes or something. Yeah.
Sana nga, sana naman hindi magamit for bad
Sana
purposes.
hindi. Yes. Oo.
Yeah. So, meron pa tayong isang question, okay, from Maiko. So, hi, Miss Flair. We are fortunate to have been educated on social media etiquette. How about the others who lack in this aspect? Can you suggest the best approach that we can employ to educate our fellow netizens in a way that they will not react negatively?
Right. So, Michael, thank you for your question. Are you saying that we should also educate other people who are not aware of social media etiquette? Is that your question? I think that is, no?
Hi, Miss Blair. Good evening.
Hi, Michael. Good evening.
In my case, I am asking this in the perspective of an educator because, for
Right.
example, I have students who really need to be educated. But sometimes,
Mhm.
even if, as much as I would like to share a lot of wisdom inside the classroom, we really could not avoid instances wherein students go beyond the limits on social media.
Right.
So,
Right.
can you suggest the best approach to address this one? Thank you.
Yes, I think first and foremost, since we are educators, we also value the information that we're giving out to our students. So um, make it a teaching moment, right? For example, if there are issues that are public and then you spotted one of your students breaking the rules or not using social media effectively or not using social media the right way, perhaps the best way to go about that is to teach them, right? So use it as a teaching moment. Wag lang natin silang siguro ipahiya, like using screenshots or like telling them, tagging them na, oh, mali ka, mali to, ganyan. Just use it probably like in a broader sense na, okay, you're saying, someone is saying this, but it should be done this way. So, use it as a teaching moment. Yun lang talaga masasuggest ko because we can't change people's opinion in just one go, diba? I mean, it has to be that consistent awareness na there is something wrong with what they're doing. So, just parang remind them that there's another way to look at things. Make it a teaching moment.
Awesome. Yun. May this be a teaching moment for us na talaga. So, Miss, si Rose, ano another question? She asked, those who accept to connect in LinkedIn, can you see what you have updated? So, I think
Yes,
there's a
actually,
setting, no?
oo, oo. Yan. Miss Rose, and thank you for your question. Actually, yes. Once you connect with people in LinkedIn, they can actually see your whole profile. Parang online resume mo na siya or CV. So yes, they can see what you have updated. Yeah. So dapat
I think
conscious
we need,
tayo ano yung pinopost natin.
exactly. There could be a certain information in what you do that is for public, and there are certain things like projects that, let's say, wala rin namang clearance with your clients. For example, if you have sensitive projects like working with
Yes. Yeah.
security, like I mentioned to you guys, I work with Peace and Conflict Research. May mga subject na hindi ko pwedeng I can talk about on my public profile.
Right.
So we need to level that out. So mayroon tayong for portfolio purposes, and then meron talagang yung pang personal, professional level. Pero yung
For opinion
public,
purposes.
LinkedIn, huwag natin ilagay yun doon. Oo.
Ayan. So, yeah, Miss Rose, tama siya. So, you're safe if you choose not to connect with a person. Tama. Yeah. As long as alam mo yung privacy settings mo. So, I think this is the best time to also remind you guys na to take a look at your privacy settings and check it. See kung ano yung mga information that you have activated or updated, and try to hide those that you prefer others not to see, especially personally identifiable information. Yan.
Ayun. So, be very concerned on filtering what is for public consumption. Ayun nga.
Tama.
Anybody has question? Cedric, do you have a question, Cedric?
We have none so far from the chat. Yeah. None from my end.
All right. So, anybody else going once?
Parang raffle, no?
Alright.
Raffle.
Raffle, oo. But anyway, if you have questions that you don't really want to ask here live, you have the details by Miss Flair, and you can certainly add her. I believe Miss Flair also
Yes.
received mentees. Ito yun eh. Ito kasi
Yes,
yung,
please add me. Please add me on
Yes.
Facebook. I'm quite
And then you will
active there and
see-
quite opinionated. Joke.
Yes. And follow all her opinions with value. To be honest, follow her
With value.
all her rants. Consider having people who post about rants in social media as giving you the other perspective. Right?
Right,
So huwag
that's
natin
true.
isipin na toxic lang yung mga ranters. Okay? Let's
Exactly.
consider those who gives opinions of what you don't believe in as a door or as a window for enlightenment of the other side. Kasi masyado tayong opinionated rin minsan na parang block. I don't want to listen about the other, the other door or the other concept.
Right.
So sila yung mga magbibigay ng parang outliers point of view. Pag i-follow niyo yung mga outliers point of view, si Miss Flair, ayun. Yes. So for tomorrow, it's Saturday, and we have bigger crowd tomorrow. And we will be streaming live again in Facebook and in YouTube. And tomorrow we'll have on Monday we'll have Ernesto Neri once again. And tomorrow we'll have, let me just pull up the names. I think it's, are you excited for tomorrow? It's Saturday again. We'll have TJ Manota from ABS-CBN, and perhaps you can ask more questions with him tomorrow, especially with having social profile. Kasi ito yung parang jump off natin with Miss Flair. Kasi we have this online branding that we need to take care of. And how do we actually move on from there and become social influencers? This is exactly why we organized Media Civics Lab, because you, as community leaders, you will be the influence, the spark in your specific hyperlocal. So kayo na yung magdadala nito. I know we have participants coming from Albay, and some of them may not be online like a lot of times because in just 2 weeks, may dalawa na silang bagyong inexperience. But we will bring in the knowledge that they will learn from MCL to their community. We have participants coming from Caraga region, from Samar, from Agusan del Sur. Ito kayo po, hindi po kaming mga nasa metropolitan ang importante dito. You will be the one who will be influencing more young people about being educated, being more, sabi nga ni Ms. Claire, social media etiquette natin ay tama at the right side ng fence. Ayun. So, yeah, let me just say hello again kay Rahim Amir. Si Rahim kasi, Ms. Flair, ay isang sa mga very studious nating member dito
Oh,
sa
hi
MCL.
Rahim.
Oo, nagte-take note pa yan with paper and pen.
Wow.
Ayan. Oo.
Goodness.
Yeah, ito yung niya, a good takeaway for every SK leaders, especially in this generation, na puro disinformation. Exactly,
Right.
Rahim. Ayun nga.
Hmm.
Ayun. So thank you so much, guys, and
Thank you, Miss
don't
Jara,
forget.
also.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Miss Claire, for giving your time with MCL, and for you, for all our students who continuously be on our program. Thank you, and don't forget, tomorrow we'll have another session, and I hope this is something that enriches our mind every single day. Kasi inaaraw-araw na natin kayo eh. Okay. So thank you very much, and that will be all. Signing off.